Imagine a situation. You live in a big, expensive city. You need to go abroad for a few months for whatever reason, whether it is because you have family there or work, or you're just curious about the world. You sublet your apartment, since few people can afford to pay rent for a place in which they don't live, especially because you likely have to pay rent wherever it is that you go to. You carefully select your subtenant to make sure you get your home back, ideally in the same shape. And then you leave. 3 weeks into the sublet period, your subtenant suddenly dies inside your apartment. Awful, right? This is what happened to us. That is, myself, Maria Vinogradova, and my husband, Dan Streible, in early June 2025, as we left our New York apartment to a wonderful woman we liked so much that we almost instantly counted her as a new friend. When it comes to death, we have all sorts of fears and superstitions, and by we, I mean most people in any country. Digesting an event such as this understandably takes some time. Yet, in our case, the event itself was just the beginning. Before we had a chance to understand how to think about it, we had to switch our attention elsewhere: bureaucracy. It is early November, 5 months since the incident, and 2.5 months since we returned to New York. We still don't have access to our apartment and live in this temporary substitute with bare walls. I created this channel to share our story. I am doing this, first and foremost, for friends and family members. We have noticed that every time we meet someone, the story eats up the whole airtime, but not mentioning it at all also doesn't seem right. It is consuming much of our time these days, and not mentioning it when we are asked how we are doing seems like something is missing. It feels kind of lonely. I am doing it by myself without Dan, but with his consent, just because going solo simplifies the logistics, and I definitely need to keep this as simple as possible. Perhaps Dan will join me sometimes. We'll see. While friends and family are the main viewership I envision, I also wouldn't mind sharing this with a wider audience as well. I think our story is emblematic of so many issues New York is plagued by. As much as this place as a magnet whose energy and culture continue to attract people from all over the world, few would deny that it's also filthy and brutal. Brutal towards the historically oppressed, the poor, the migrants, black people, and other people of color. Amidst the stories of homelessness, police brutality, and other ills that plague the city, our story is relatively benign. But I think it's also symptomatic of the kind of insecurity of the precarious middle-class experience familiar to many people working in arts and education, such as ourselves. I chose to name it Steamrolled by Procedure because, as I came to realize, the nature of the obstacles that keep us locked out of our home lies in the procedure that the government invokes once someone passed away. When a person dies, the main practical matters are funeral and securing and distributing the estate of the deceased. Juliet, our subtenant, did not have a will, so to determine what happens to her worldly possessions is up to the institution called surrogate's court. A few of her personal items, mostly clothes, are still inside our apartment. Before the surrogate's court decides who inherits what, that's a very rough characterization I'll resort to here to simplify my initial explanation, no part of the estate can be touched, not even its most minor part. So, to protect that handful of small things that even Juliet's friends probably won't be allowed to get hold of, since they are not her heirs, we remain locked out of our apartment. This is being done to satisfy the procedure, which moves unhurriedly for its own sake, just like a steamroller. No part of it can be simplified or expedited. However, our rights to our home appear to be entirely dispensable. The surrogate's court certainly is unaware of any such rights, as we came to realize. We are expected to wait for as long as it takes. All the while, we continue to pay rent. Our 2 air conditioners were left running over the summer, and no one had a way to turn them off. When you lose access to your home, it's not only the inconvenience of having to live elsewhere. In a situation like ours, you know you won't receive it back in the same shape. The police locked it in an as-is condition, so we could only wonder if there were food leftovers on the kitchen counter or dirty dishes in the dishwasher attracting cockroaches, who are never too far from you in New York. Will they be all over my seasonal clothes too? Will it be easier to throw everything away instead of trying to bring it back to a satisfactory hygienic condition? Juliet did not do this. We knew we could trust her to keep everything in a pristine condition, and leaving it to her was easy. Yet the seal forced the kind of neglect upon our home that it simply won't be the same. It just feels like a hell of a lot of work to make it habitable again. It's the kind of damage that seems nearly impossible to itemize on an insurance claim, for instance. The bureaucrats we have talked to seem to have no idea. All they know is that the property was sealed and that it may be unsealed someday, no earlier than the procedure is executed. I myself am a die-hard proceduralist, or so I thought. I believe in the separation of powers and in balance of individual rights versus the public good. I understand that ensuring this balance can be tedious, but it's necessary. However, when our own rights essentially became a collateral damage as the procedure was unfolding, I have come to notice that those who drive the steamroller don't seem to remember that the procedure has a purpose. Our struggle is ongoing. I have learned a lot about law and justice, their practice as well as theory, while trying to avoid being entirely consumed by it, not always successfully. In this channel, I plan to record a series of videos in which I'll tell you about the different aspects of this struggle. While I have a plan for what videos I want to record, time will show how much I'll stick to this plan. Perhaps I'll abandon it altogether. To ensure the livability of this project, I'll have to keep production values minimal and ideally cut down on prep time so it won't be very polished. No fancy lighting, upbeat narration, or looking into the camera all the time. Much of the time I'll have to look into my notes. I can't guarantee it'll be as entertaining as I would like it to be, but I'll try. So let's see how it goes, and bear with me when you can.